So what was it like for you, Mac, growing up in Texas?
Besides the good barbecue and Southern hospitality, it was in the environment that I grew up in and in the households that I grew up in. It was really challenging, because I lived in a lot of different households. So I lived with my mom in the beginning, and then I got taken away from her. I lived in a foster home. Then my uncle's wife, and he was in prison at the time, got me out of the foster home. I lived with her for some years, then reconnected with my dad, lived with him and 20 of his other girlfriends. Just basically always just jump from house to house, family to family type thing. That was kind of what I dealt with in Texas, like growing up.
So in terms of education then, if you're moving around a lot, was it hard to maintain any focus?
It was just hard to maintain focus in general. I think with me, naturally, I'm a person that's always all over the place. So I have to be really interested in something and passionate about something to be focused. But it didn't help. Yeah, it's still 1 o'clock. Okay, no worries. Sorry, I'm in a hotel. But so that was like the what was I talking
You
about?
were unfocused because of
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
education.
hard to maintain
Yeah,
focus
so
moving
so that
around.
was one of it, but the other thing is, it was always discouraging people. Um, Before, like my dad and my stepmom, like they would, instead of giving me encouraging words, I would get insults about my lack of. And what was crazy is I consider myself a very intelligent, smart kid, and I'm very good at picking up something really fast, especially if I'm interested in it. But at that time, at that age, it was different because it was hard to say inspired or focus on things that was positive when you had people constantly doubting you and telling you what you can't do, or instead of encouraging you, they throw out insults. And then they would bring my oldest sister, they would bring her in there, who was the straight A student, and she would laugh. Like it was just a complete circus to me. And that's what made it really hard, because I just didn't have any interest anymore in school or anything like that, because I just felt like it wasn't gonna matter, because nobody believed in me anyways.
Right. Were there any subjects at any time or any sports that you did get interested in?
Football and basketball, and then history is like my favorite. Like that was the crazy thing about me too. There was like a few or if I had a teacher, like let's say I had a really good, cool teacher, like one of those teachers that's really passionate about, she's more than just a teacher. Then those classes I would, because I'm the type of person, if you show me love, I'm a loyal person. I'm gonna show you that back. And if I'm a knucklehead and I act up in every other class, but you're that teacher that is nice and caring and believe in me and your class is fun, then I would never be disruptive in your class. I'm gonna always give you that respect. So my history teacher, my history class, I loved history like with a passion. Math is like I just be wanting to jump off a bridge. So definitely history, basketball, and football. Those things.
Were there any other positive influences from the adult world when you were a young person? Any other teachers or sports coaches or
Oh, let's see. I had a few. My fifth grade teacher, her name was Miss Fountain. She was from Atlanta, Georgia. She was a black lady. She was really cool, down to earth, and her class was just always fun because she was good. She had a big personality, and she didn't treat us like kids. She treated us like how she treats her kids, but she wasn't like a strict parent either. So she loved us. So that was always, I loved her class. I've always was like, if I ever get a chance to see her again, I want to thank her for just that good experience. Then I had two other teachers in high school, Miss Perez and then Miss Jaffers. And they were Miss Perez, actually, before I got locked up, she found out that that I had some kind of desire to be a lawyer. I wanted to like, I was like, I would love to be a lawyer. And she, before the summer, before I got locked up, spring break, she actually wanted to work with me and tutor me and like help me with other subjects because she was like, you have all this potential, but you're not applying it and you're just, throwing your life away type deal. And I kind of already knew where my route was going. So, part of me didn't want to hear it, but then because of my respect and love for her, like I was like, I want to listen and I'm gonna at least try it out. But I didn't even make it to come back to school because I ended up getting incarcerated. She actually wrote me while I was in jail. So like them, but coaches, I think I had one coach. His name was Coach Baker, and he was in high school. But he was like my science teacher too, as well. So I think those three people out of all, and I was in a lot of schools.
So 10, 20 years ago in this country, they used to show like American schools with metal detectors and gang activity, and it shocked the UK public. But it's here now. We've got like prolific knife crime in this country, and it's here now. The metal detectors, young people just stabbing other young people to death. What was gang culture like at your school and the neighborhood you grew up in?
They carry guns, and like one of my middle schools, middle school we had to go through metal detectors. A lot of people carry guns because a lot of those people were gang involved. So beefs that was on the streets could carry on to the schoolhouse too. And you would think like, oh, why would you, why can't you? But when you gang banging, it's not like you could take like a break. Okay, let me get, let me take a 2-hour break. And then when this break's over, we can go back to gang banging. It's like, no, you already kind of know that that's what comes with that when you join. So a lot of times you can have beefs that started off in the streets and sometimes they see each other at school and a fight will break out or somebody bring a gun and pull out a gun or a shootout after school, so that was like, it was anywhere it could go down, even if it was in a church or anything like that, because they looked at that like how soldiers look at the military.
Did you lose any friends to gang violence?
I did. I've lost a lot of friends, a lot of friends, a lot of friends. And what's crazy is I lost all my friends that got killed, died from people that look just like them. And to me that was puzzling as well too. It's like we killing each other for what?
So I spent time in Arizona, and like the streets had different gangs, 49th Street this or whatever. And I remember Bloods and Crips and the blue and the red. How is it structured, the gangs out there in Texas?
Yeah, so because every state is like different. So like Dallas, they when they gang bang, they do like their neighborhood. So like they might have a gang. Like there's this gang in Oak Cliff, Dallas. That's I think they're 4-9 Kings. So you have to be actually like that's their neighborhood gang. So like some of these gangs might not be nationwide, but they might just be in that area right there. And then you got some area like Los Angeles is like the mecca of it. So they're like super, because I live out in California, and they're like super traditional with that stuff. It's crazy. Like even if you're blood related brothers in different gangs, y'all are enemies. Like it's not that strict in Texas, like at all. But in Texas, it's normally like in Houston, you had like the typical Crips, Bloods, and then you had the Hispanic gangs, and then the way they ran it, it wasn't really like, I mean, you had your areas where you had Bloods, majority Bloods, but it wasn't really like to a point where people were, like California, if they see you with an opposite color, then that could cause you to, and you don't even have to be a gangbanger. But with us, it was kind of like in Texas, it wasn't really too strict like that, but the violence still played a big part in, riding for your gang and, that loyalty, that brotherhood or whatever we call it, played a factor too. But as far as like the politics in it, it's not as strict as like California at all. You go to
What?
California, you have to watch everything. Like they take, because it's like the mecca. A lot of gangs around the country started in California, originated in Los Angeles.
So did you have to join a gang then?
Just yeah, being around. So what started was is that at first when we all like what middle school, we weren't really gang banging. And then you hang out with a few older guys and they start gang banging. So then you're kind of like, oh man, what's that? You know what it is, but you don't really understand it fully. And then when you have a friend, and then next thing you know, you start really seeing yourself gravitate to, all right, let me hang out with this group of people. And then next thing you know, you're hanging around a whole bunch of Bloods or you're hanging around a whole bunch of Crips to a point where, it becomes a little pressure on you because you're kind of like, all right, if I'm with them and I'm getting in all these fights and all this, I might as well get down with the game. And then also you get that protection and all that as well, and that family. It's like I said, a brotherhood. It's like what we think is a family, because a lot of those people, a lot of my friends that gang banged, and they didn't have a household like that. They didn't have that love and support. So we would go and join a gang to get what we weren't getting at home. And some people would think, like, how does that make sense then? Like, why would you want that type of love? But when you're desperate for love,
Yeah.
anything is better than nothing. So it's like, this is the closest thing I'm gonna get to a family, so I'll take that.
So which gang did you end up with?
So I was affiliated with the 5'9" Bounty Hunter Bloods.
And what is the
So it
initiation?
originated in Los Angeles, originated in South Central. Los Angeles is where they started. That gang originated at, and then kind of branched off. And Texas was one of the places, in Houston especially, where they have a lot of 5'9" Bounty Hunter Bloods as far as the blood gang, and they have like Pyrus and stuff too. But yeah, that's what the gang I was affiliated with.
So what is the initiation to join the gang?
You got different initiations. Some people get jumped in, and then some people, go commit a crime or crimes to show, their loyalty and that they're down for the gang. So a lot of times it's that, or you can go, some gangs, you fight, 4 or 5 people at once for, a certain amount of time. And that can get you initiated as well. It's always something violent. It's not like something like go to Stater Brothers for me and spend $300 worth of groceries and then come back. And then you're in. So, you're doing something that's going to cause you to go to jail or die.
So when you were in that gang, then you said earlier that you lost a lot of friends. Was that during that period of your life? Was it like rivals that going to war with rivals that caused those people to end up dead?
It was rivals, and then sometimes it was just bad business. Like you would do, drug exchange that went bad, or like I had a friend that he was selling somebody a gun, and the guy wanted the gun and the money and everything else and killed them. And then I got some friends that, yeah, they died from rival gang members. Like one of my other friends, he got shot in 2008 at a party with beef from a rival gang. And what's crazy was the guy that actually killed him, who's actually doing time for that now, I used to be cool with him before that even happened. Like it surprised me. It was like, man, that was the one who ended up killing one of my closest friends. And it was just crazy because we were both affiliated with the same gang. So it was like, but me and this guy was cool. So it was a unique situation.
So did that gang that you were in have a dress code?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, you wore red. You wore a lot of red. As much, and then sometimes you would just wear all red, and they'll call it it's a term they say you flamed up. When you have a whole bunch of red on it, say you flamed up or flame Jane. But yeah, a lot of times you symbolize something, even if you had like a different color on, maybe, you would at least have like your red bandana out your back pocket, or, something to symbolize that, who you are and what you represent.
That's fascinating for people here in England. Hearing you say things like flamed up, that's fascinating because that's stuff, we've never heard of. Is there any other slang that you guys used perhaps you take it for granted, but to us it would be.
I mean, you had like different calls, like Bloods. They have like a call, like we would like if you were calling your friend, you'd be like, so so it's like SUWOOP, Sue Whoop. You like that was your call. So if you heard Sue Whoop, like you could be like, let's say like we were in a corner store or something, there was a whole bunch of Bloods, and you get into it with somebody and you say Sue Whoop, you're gonna hear other people Sue. Like you're gonna hear people respond to that. But that was that was a call of what's popping. You would say what's popping instead of what's cracking. Crips would say what's cracking. Bloods would say what's popping. And I never got this technical with it, but there was people that was so involved that they couldn't use anything that had the letter C. So like they would say, instead of saying, "Hey, can I borrow 50 cents?" they would say, "Hey, can I borrow 50 bent?" Like they so anything that has a C in it, they replace it with a B, or the way they spell their letters. Like Crips, like if a Crip was to spell my name is M-A-C-K. So they would have to spell it M-A-C-C.
Wow.
Because CK, the end of CK means Crip killer. Wow. So that symbolizes, yeah. But if I was and then a Blood would spell it either M-A-C-K and put like an X where the C is, to cross out the C is form of disrespect. And they would put M-A-K-K and add a K to replace that C, because they don't want to put a C in there to acknowledge Crips, but then don't want to disrespect them either, because they might have love for, Crips and stuff. So they just might put M-A-K-K. Wow. Like they won't put, like, it's crazy. Like cigarettes, they would say bigarettes. Can I get a bigarette? Like,
what kind of music do you guys listen to?
I mean, we listen to really anything, honestly. A lot of rap music, though. Me personally, I just listen to things that I could relate. But of course, you had a couple rappers that were Bloods that you would want to listen, because a lot of times they would, gang banging or make a whole song about that gang, representing their gang, and you might want to listen to it. But me, I just listen to a little. I'm more of I like old school music too. A lot of R&B. I was more of an R&B guy more than I was rap. But if I listen to rap, I used to like to listen to people that had some kind of story or message, that didn't just talk about a whole bunch. Like Tupac was one of my favorite, or I loved what he had to say. And then I don't know if you know who Nipsey Hussle is.
No.
Okay. But Nipsey Hussle, he was murdered like 2 years ago. But he was a guy that I listened to because I liked his message. I'm more of I want you to tell me a story, and I want to relate to what you're saying. So that was really the music that I listened to. But, normally it was gangster rap stuff that, get you all pumped up, or something that you could relate to that you want to hear.
So if a rival gang was coming into your neighborhood, would you identify them through their dress code?
That, or you might even just know them already, or know, hey, that's one who hang with such and such over there. A lot of times if they was in your area, you would know who belongs there and who doesn't, especially if you're like a well-known figure in that area, in that environment, then you're definitely going to know a lot of times if somebody there that's not supposed to be there. And especially if they do have like a bandana on, a blue bandana or something, you might question them or say something, hey man, who you here to see, or something like that. But it's not as bad as LA though. LA, like, definitely you walk in there alive and leave out in a body bag, because they're super. I mean, I don't think that we would go to those extremes, but we probably still check to see, what are you doing over here? And then if it leads to you being disrespectful, then, I mean, there's consequences for that. But
so when there was like war breaking out, or when there was one of you guys got hit or one of the guys got hit, did you then have to take special precautions? And was there like people would go in each other's neighborhoods, like trying to pop someone off for revenge for one of your guys or one of their guys? And did it just go round and round like that?
That was mandatory regardless. It didn't even have to be, because you got an environment full of different, you got gangbangers, you got drug dealers, And then you got what we call jack boys. Jack boys are stick-up kids. They like to rob and sneak up on you and all that. So you really had to you had to be on point regardless. Like, even if it wasn't a rival gang, you still had to watch your back, because it could be somebody that's not even in the game, but it's still to bring it to you like they're in a game. You know, they might just not feel like they need to be in the game, but you know, they carry guns on them and they kill people and stuff too. So you might have some beef with them that might not even be gang related. So watching your back was just mandatory in general. But a lot of times, you know, yeah, it would be because if there was a war breaking out or something, you might want to walk with a little bit more precaution, or make sure that you got a gun on you. And you might not have nothing to do with what started the war or whatever. But you know, because my loyalty is with this gang, then I have to watch my back too, because they're not gonna be driving around and saying, "Oh, there you go. Oh no, he wasn't there though." They're not gonna say that. They're gonna be like, "All right, let's get him," because then we're sending a message.
Did you have any close calls?
I had a few close calls. One of them, I was in the back seat of a car. We had just like took care of some business and hurt somebody, and when we get in the car, we're driving off because we thought that they were still over there, like, you know, unconscious. And man, we got in the car and we was riding through this little bumpy little road. Like, it's the concrete is all messed up and kind of bumpy and stuff. So we're thinking that it's rocks hitting the trunk. So we're in the back seat. And then there was two more that actually hit like where close to the back window, because our heads are up here. And then that's when we realized, I was like, oh, wait, them gunshots. And they were boom, boom, boom. And then after that, he started lighting up the car and we had to take off. And there was bullet holes all in the back of the trunk. Luckily, he didn't aim. And I think because he was still woozy, that he couldn't get his aim right. I think that if he wasn't woozy, because we messed him up pretty bad, I'm pretty sure he had to at least been dazed still. If we wouldn't have messed him up that bad, he probably would have had better aim, and I probably could have got shot in the back of the head, because we were all in the back seat. Because it was like, what, 5 of us in the car, so 3 of us, I was one of the ones that was in the back seat, and our heads are right there. It could have been easily, hey, boom, right there, headshots. But I don't think he was, because the way the bullets were scattered everywhere and just aiming at the trunk, I don't believe, because we never looked back though either, because there's bullets flying, you're not trying to look back, you're trying to get out the way. But I believe that he just was dazed so much that he just was just shooting. And that's a blessing too at the same time, because that could have cost us, because we were all in the car defenseless at that time, with our backs turned, not even realizing that this guy just went in this house and got a gun.
You said you had a couple of close calls. What was the other one?
The other one I had, it was another situation where we were actually some guys. All right, so there's also a lot of Hispanic and Black beefs too that goes on in America. So we had a situation where one of my friends was fighting. So then my other friend, I guess he was bored by the fight that they were having. So he went and punched one of the other guys. And then once he went and punched them, we all went and started punching on them. Like, so we just jumped them because they was in our area anyways. We were going to let them get like the one-on-one. Then we started jumping them. And then next thing you know, we're all walking our own separate ways. And me and my friend one of them, they went to their house, came back in a truck, and they just was driving around looking for all of us. And they ended up seeing us walking down the street and was chasing us and shooting. But they were riding in the car, so we was able to cut corners and jump fences and all that kind of stuff. So that was a close call. And then, yeah, there was another one. I don't really want to talk about that one. I was a lot younger. I was a
I hear
lot
you.
younger, and that case is still unsolved. So
What was your first brush with the law?
let's see. Like the first time like I ever had an encounter with the police.
Yeah.
My first one was a bad one actually, and it was I mean, I don't think anybody expects it to be like a pleasant one, but it was just a lot of racial profiling going on out there. And the very first encounter was I was just chilling. Like I was just hanging in the apartment complex we live in. A cop pulls up. I think I'm like 12 or 13 at the time, but a cop pulled up and it's us. Like we're teenagers. We're just sitting there, just hanging out in front of my friend Kevin's townhome. We just sitting right there in the area, and they pull by, and the guy points at me. The cop points at me, and tells me, "Come here." So I walk over there. He gets out the car. He tells me to put my hands on the trunk, and I'm like, "Whoa, wait, what I do?" And then after that, he was like, "Man, don't try to resist or anything like that." So I put my hands on the trunk, and he starts patting me. He says, "You see that screen in the car?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, we're looking for a suspect, and you fit the description." And I clearly saw the screen of the description, and I didn't fit it at all. But I don't think he knew my vision was that good because I was pretty far away. But I was looking so hard, and I'm like, "No way!" I didn't even have. They said he had a black shirt. I had a white shirt on at that time, and the dude was a Hispanic male, heavy set, and I'm like 145 at this time. So I just think that he just was expecting us to have some stuff on us, just catch some free bait. And then after that, when he was searching me, I didn't have no belt on. And this one, I used to sag, so my pants were kind of falling. And I went without even knowing, I'm not even realize what I'm doing. I went to try to pull him up, and he put a gun out on me so fast, he had it on my back. He was like, "If I was you, I would not do that." And man, I was so scared because, we hear all the time cops, doing this and doing that, where I'm from. So I'm like, "Oh man, this man about to shoot me in my back." And that was like the first encounter. And then after that, I had this one cop. He just had it out for me so bad, and rightfully so. But at the same time, he was a black cop. So I expected him to be more, understandable to us and like, let me help y'all out. Y'all some lost kids, be more like just, instead of coming and trying to lock us up, we'll listen to you probably more than we'll listen to any but other cop that comes in here. Cause you're black, if anything we would be open to hearing what you have to say if we feel like that you have good intentions. Just based off your skin color, you kind of have but they don't do that. They do the complete opposite. And then we look at them as, the other cops. So then they don't have no loyalty with us at all.
So did you get arrested for more serious things over time that ended up with your incarceration?
I did. And it led, it started, and this is where it started with. It started with watching gangster movies, being infatuated with guns and that, I mean, especially when you're already in that environment and you're watching all these movies and stuff. And so then when we go to the dollar store, everybody else getting a toy or getting a wand, a magic wand, some bubbles that blow with a fan or something. And Mack wants a Desert Eagle. And then take the orange tip off so it looked real and walk around packing it. And then my dad, one time he had like a real gun, but it was like something was wrong, the pin or something was off, but it was real. And somehow I got it and I kept it. And it wasn't loaded, it didn't work or anything, but I always carried it with me. And I was like in the 4th or 5th grade at that time. I was just like, and I think after that, it went from that, then I started smoking weed. And then, but a lot of that started with the household. That was the biggest thing. If I had just my dad in my life and him actually being there for me, I don't think that I would have even committed any of those crimes. I was doing all that stuff for acceptance, love, and approval, and all the things that I wasn't getting at home. You're as a parent, you ask your child for these things, respect and take care of your education, make some out of your life, chores, and all this type of stuff. Well, I wasn't getting that, so their expectations were completely different. So they were like, in order to get this, you have to do this, this, and that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that then. So I mean, in all actuality, if the household was a lot better, I wouldn't even had committed any of those crimes or did any of those things. And I think that's what really led up. I had no hope and I was lost and I wanted love and all those things that, I mean, I believe every kid, even as adults, we still want that. we still seek love and attention and acceptance.
For people in the UK, how old are you in fourth and fifth grade?
In fourth and fifth grade, how old
Yeah,
was I?
yeah.
I believe I was with 9 and 10, or no,
Wow.
10 and 11, 10 and 11.
That really puts it in perspective. So you can access guns then at such a young age. I mean, how easy is it to get guns?
Oh, in Texas,
Yeah.
it's so easy, especially in Texas. Like in Texas right now, you can carry a gun without having a license now. Like they just passed that law. But it's so easy to get guns, especially in my environment. Like the only thing is that so you got a lot of so that's again, you got like so many different hustles. So you have some people that also break into places and steal guns and stuff like that too, and sell them on the street. And then you might have somebody that might have killed somebody with that gun, and then they need to get rid of it, so they sell it off. And then now you have that gun, and you have probably committed 5 robberies, so now you get rid of that gun and sell it to somebody. And then that person who gets caught with just possession of a firearm, now he has to worry about 3 different robberies that he didn't commit, a murder that he didn't commit, but he has the gun in the ATF. Like you have that gun, it's in your possession, and your fingerprints is all on the gun. So this is the same gun that these robberies, and then you're in that. So a lot of times that's just how it goes. You know, those guns get passed around so much that a lot of those guns have bodies on there. Like the gun that we got caught, we had the ATF involved in our case because they said too, like the gun that we had was some other like murders or something like that, and that was a gun that we got from somebody. Like
Wow.
we didn't commit, we didn't kill anybody or shoot anybody with that gun, and that gun had all kind of illegal stuff on there. And the serial number, they scratched the serial numbers off so they can't be traced. So a lot of times that's how guns get.
Just to put the prices in perspective, then, I've interviewed people in the UK who had guns in their former criminal histories, and the prices they were telling me, there's like a zero on the prices of in America, because in Arizona, Saturday night special for like $100, $200. What kind of prices were you guys getting guns for?
Yeah, so like in Texas, like if you go to like an actual store, you buy like a 45, probably like you probably spend like a minimum like seven to probably like $700-800. I think probably you have to pay. It's a lot of money. But on the street, you can buy one for like $250, $300, you know, easy. So that's a big gap right there, because a lot of those people just because when they get rid of it, they can just go get another. It's so easy to get a gun out there, you know, but and they'll sell it for cheap because, you know, it's just money in their pocket. And they rather get rid of that gun anyways because they done committed so many crimes on there. All right, it's time to give me a new one.
What was the name of the county jail out there, and what was your first experience of it?
Uh, my first experience in jail, it was different because I mean you're in there with a bunch of young kids, a bunch of young knuckleheads, and when they put me on the floor, so they had like 8 floors, and the eighth floor, the top floor, is what they call the gladiator floor. That's where like all the big dogs and all the violent people and people that like to fight all the time. And that was the floor that they had put me on. And but they put me on that floor because of my size. Everybody up there was big dudes, you know, big teenagers. And so that was like the experience that I dealt with at first, just how they segregated people and how they placed people in different positions. And then also just the food was horrible, just being locked up, and like you had a window at the top of the roof. So you only looking at clouds and the sun if it's set right there. And that's about it. You can't really see anything else. So I hate it. I never had a problem like being in there with inmates and stuff. I can defend myself, and I'm smart enough to not have to have somebody manipulate me into doing anything. It's the fact of having your freedom taken away from you, having to be isolated, and somebody telling you what to do, when to shower. You know, you really have just no freedom at all. You know, that was the part that sucked the most for me. Like that was the part I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Did they ever serve you green bologna sandwiches?
Green.
That green bologna sandwich stuff.
Oh,
That's what they
no,
serve in Arizona.
no, but they served some nasty food or some stuff something that looked like meatloaf. I think that's what it was. Some other stuff, man. It was bad. It was bad. And the Kool-Aid was, oh man, it was just flavored water. That's all it was. It was no, they put no sugar at all in there. Then
One
you
of
had, huh?
one of my female co-defendants, she dyed her hair with the Kool-Aid, all these colors.
Oh, but yeah, the food was horrible. And in jail, you just create the dumbest things in jail just to do. Like if the food was nasty, you would just make a spread and just put everything together. You might got some bread and mix it all together. It might take the taste away. You might get a little variety of taste. Or we used to have this tea that they would give us for dinner, and it was like, well, it was nasty too. But we had these brownies, big brownies, that we would get at dinner time, and you would put the whole brownie in there, crush it, and you would basically be scooping it like you're like the weirdest thing, but it was bomb though. It was so good. When I first got in, I seen people do. I said, "Are you dipping a brownie in some tea?" And don't knock it till you try it. Next thing you know, I was in there windmill dunking brownies in there. And, hey man, you gonna eat that brownie and dump it in my tea? And like, and then the best part was when the crumbs, whatever was left in there, the crumbs at the bottom, when you drink it, it's kind of like what's at the end of the French fries. Like this. Yeah, that part. But you do.
What was the name of that jail?
No, that was well. I was in downtown. I was in West Side. They called one of them West Side, and then I was in Waco, which was Marlin, and then after that, Gainesville.
Do you guys have some sheriff who thinks he's a badass?
All the guards in there thought that they were that. I mean, because and to be honest, I felt like a lot of those people that did that were the people that used to get wedgies in high school. So then now they have like, because I just don't see, I can't see how a grown up could have that type of a power trip. And it wasn't even that. It was just, hey, hey, is it cool if I get my mail real quick? Because this is when we're supposed to get our mail. All right,
Yeah.
well, since you asked, it's going to be an hour from now. Because I asked for my mail, that I was like, what? And I was like, and that's just an ego that they have. Oh, well, if you don't like it, do something about it.
Yeah, they go crazy, don't they? The ego just takes over, like they become RoboCops.
It's bad, but I mean, that's why I tell you, like, you give anybody, a lot of people can't handle power. Like, everybody wants to be in position to have power, but not everybody can handle it. But it's crazy because a lot of people can access it. You know, just like those people, they have a sense of power. Like, they used to insult us. They used to say the just craziest things because they know what they could get away with. And then you had some inmates that didn't care about that and was like, all right, y'all about to get beat up. Like, jump on the guards. Like, I knew a couple guys that, and some of us, like, we would be kind of satisfied, like at least somebody did it, because it was just crazy how they would treat us. And I understand, like, they look at us as criminals and stuff too, but at the same time, we're still kids, man. Like, we're still teenagers. You know, we might be completely different 10 years from now. Because when I was 5, I wanted to be a firefighter. Then when I was 9, I wanted to be a Power Ranger. And then I was, 13, I wanted to play basketball, be in the NBA. And when I was 16, I wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, and then I'm 20, I wanted to be an actor. So we just constantly just changed. But I mean, they never looked at it. It was no empathy. All the things that they taught us, they didn't exercise to us. And it was crazy. It was like, all right, you just have a program that you want us to say to get approved so you can build this facility where these youth are going to come in and you can make all this money off all these kids getting locked up.
Matt, I'm going to play mom for a second, but didn't you say you had to be somewhere? I don't want you to be late.
It's 12. Wow.
Yeah. Are you good? Are you good? Do you have to go?
I actually have to go.
You two can collaborate at a later date.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant, Matt. You're such a powerful speaker.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll get this up there. Can you say the name of that gang that you were in again? I'll probably put that in the title.
The 5'9" Bounty Hunter Bloods.
5'9" Bounty Hunter Bloods. Let me write this down. That was fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And are you like, do you have any socials or anything you want us to plug?
Tell them
your social media handles.
So the only social media that I really use is Instagram. So it's Mack M White 3. So it's Mack and then like just the letter M and then White, my last name, and then the number 3. But it's all together in one because I'm Mack McKinley White III. So that's my Instagram, and then my Facebook is just Mack White, I believe.
All right, so just quickly to the people watching this then, if you've enjoyed Mack's story, please let us know in the comments below this video. And, you know, please support what he's doing. He's turned his life around. We've not got to that part of the story yet, but the link is going to be in the description box below the video if you want to check out where he is on the socials. And if you've got any questions for him, put those in the comments. You know, I'd love to get him back on, do a part 2, whereby we go over the day of his big arrest and what it was like in the prison. And I'm very curious as well, like in Arizona, the street gangs, it's all put to one side. You have to be just in a racial gang in prison, and how all that works in Texas. So appreciate you doing that, Mack. Don't want to hold you much longer then.
Thank
cheers.
you, Mack. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then everybody else, hold on, because Shaun and I are going to keep on rolling.
Yep.
Bye, Mack.
Bye.